Well, we can say that. Many people have said it.
I know many people have said it.
But without very much effect.
Why?
Well, that indeed is a question. Is it that we're so completely trapped in the ancestry of the past?
Or so heavily conditioned that it's impossible to be free?
Well, there are two possible kinds of conditioning. One is the genuine biological conditioning that comes from our animal heritage, which means that we inherit all these tendencies.
Let's accept that.
Now, that is undoubtedly extremely strong and goes right back into our animal past.
Right.
The other kind of conditioning is the kind of argument that I'm putting forward, perhaps. The argument, this has always been so. Human nature is like this. There have always been wars and conflict and all that kind of thing. And therefore there always will be. And that the most we can do is try to minimize these. And that there will always be psychological conflicts within families and between people. And that the most we can do is try and minimize these, or at least make them livable.
Modify it, but you cannot fundamentally change it.
Yes, I'm saying this is a possible kind of conditioning. The belief that we can't really change it radically is another kind of conditioning. I'm a victim of it myself. So, I don't know if it's possible to get out of it.
And that's what I want to discuss. Whether it's possible to change the human condition and not accept it. Say, as most philosophers, the existentialists and others say, your human nature is conditioned. You cannot change. You can modify it. You can be less selfish, less painful, psychologically have problems, bear up with pain. It's natural, it's there. We have inherited from the animals. We'll go on like this for the rest of our lives and for the lives to come. Not reincarnation, the lives of other people's lives. It'll be our condition, human condition. Do we accept that? Or do we inquire, shall we inquire into whether it's possible to change this condition?
Yes, I think we should inquire into that.
If you say it cannot be changed, then the argument is over.
All right, so I'll say that I don't know.
No, not say
No, I'd like it to be changed. I deeply want it to be changed. So I think that this question of inquiring into the possibility is extremely important. But one of my points, to go back to the conditioning point, is that a lot of this conditioning is deep in our biological nature. And people who wish to change it merely by changing the structures of society
I'm not talking, of course.
Are operating at too superficial a level.
Like the communists who want to change it.
But the idea that you can do it by just changing the environment is what the communists thought and still think. And in a sense, the experiment has been tried, and we can see the results in various communist countries. And, of course, believers in that would say, well, they haven't tried properly, or they betrayed the revolution, and so on. But nevertheless, the basis of that belief is that the source of all the evils and the problems is in society, and by changing society, man is perfectible.
But society is formed by us.
Yes.
And by us it's going to be changed. So we haven't changed ourselves. We depend on society to change us.
Yes.
And society is what we have made. So we are caught in that trap.
Yes. Exactly. And if we start off with a heritage which is built into us, inherited, which comes from our biological past, and if we start with that, and we start with these societies that also have bad effects, some of them, and to varying degrees, and we just try to change the society, the other part, the inherited part, is still there.
But cannot those also be transformed? I may have inherited violence from the from the apes and so on and so on. Can't I change that? The inherited biological conditioning, surely that can be transformed.
Well, all societies, surely, seek to transform these biological drives that we have. And all processes of bringing children up in all societies seek to bring those drives within the control of the society. Otherwise, you'd have complete anarchy. However, these drives are always brought within certain social forms, and individual aggression is obviously discouraged in most societies. But can we say, is it really transformed? Doesn't it just come out again in the aggression of the society as a whole, and war and so on? So we can see that these things are transformed by societies, these basic drives that we inherit.
But why do we...
I was going to ask you say they really haven't been transformed, but I think you're meaning by transformed a fundamental change, and not just a superficial change or a transfer of the object of aggression from other individuals to other groups. So if you talk of transformation, you would say really that they would more or less go away. Right? That's how I understand it.
Well, they'd be changed from one form to another.
No, but I don't think that's the meaning which Krishnaji is using for the word transform, but essentially can't we be free of them, you see?
Yes, that's right. So, why do you divide, if I may ask, society and being? As though society was something outside, which is influencing me, conditioning me. But I have my parents, grandparents, so on, past generations, have created that society. So I'm part of that society. I am society. Why do we separate it?
I think the reason why we separate it is that there are different kinds of society. If I'd been born in India instead of in England, I would have grown up in a very different way, with a different set of attitudes. And because we can think of ourselves growing up in different kinds of societies, and we'd be different if we had, that's why in thought, I think, we have the idea that society and me are not exactly the same. We'd always be in one society or another. So society as a whole, all societies taken together, we would only exist within society. But any particular society is in a sense an accident of our birth or upbringing.
But even that society is part of us.
Oh yes, I mean through growing up in it, it becomes part of us and we become part of it.
I want to abolish this idea in discussion, this separation from me and society. I am society, I am the world. I'm the result of all these influences, conditioning, whether in the East or in the West or in South or North, it's all part of conditioning.
Yes.
So we are attacking the conditioning, not where you are born or East or West.
Oh yes, the problem would be conditioning of every kind, our biological conditioning, our conditioning from society.
That's right.
Yes.
So personally I don't separate myself from society, I am society. I have created society through my anxiety, through my desire for security, to my desire to have power, and so on and so on. Like the animal. It's all biologically inherited, and also my own individualistic activity has created this society. So I'm asking, I'm conditioned that way. Is it not possible to be free of it? Free of my conditioning? If you say it's not possible, then it's finished.
Well, I would say first that it's not possible to be free of all of the conditioning. I mean, certain of it is necessary biologically, the conditioning that makes my heart beat, my lungs operate, and all that.
I admit all that.
Now, then the question is, how far can you take that, the necessary conditioning?
Dr. Hilly was saying, that's his whole point. I am conditioned to suffer, psychologically, right, sir?
Yes.
Or I am conditioned to go through great conflict in my relationship with my wife or father, whatever it is. And you are saying, either we investigate into that and free ourselves from that, or accept it and modify it.
That's right. And
now, which is it, that's what I want, which is it as a psychologist you maintain? If I may put such a question to you.
Yeah. Well, I think generally the approach is to attempt to modify it, to make the person